The principles of design, that's an interesting question. I wouldn't say there are any set rules, but I would say there are sort of some guidelines that might help inform a space, but equally you don't have to use them. So you could say, one principle is like the way you use geometry. Another one is the way that you consider the space a four-dimensional space. For example, it's a 3D environment, but it moves through time, so that makes it four-dimensional. And probably the last but most important point is what is the feeling of the space? And in landscape architecture, you'd call that genius loci, feeling of the space, sense of place. So just to explore those points just briefly, geometry might use formulas that exist in nature. So there's like a mathematics that exists in nature. It's known as the golden ratio. It's used in lots of things, like the proportions that you might see in an iPhone. It's called the architect's square. That mathematics would show itself in something like the spiral of a shellfish. And it might not be as obvious as that in a garden, but it might be those kind of proportions underpin a design. And what that results in is you walking into a space and maybe just feeling comfortable in it. You might not know why, but that might be what it is because you're experiencing something that exists in nature. And yeah, that term is called biophilia, the way that you are affiliated maybe with sort of natural biologies, and we maybe use that in design, but it doesn't have to be as scientific as that. It can just be that you feel comfortable in a space, and maybe when we're designing, we've got a bit of understanding about what makes a nice kind of geometry. So that would be one of the sort of main principles in design. The next one I mentioned was the way that you move through time in a garden. So four-dimensionally you move through. So you've got the 3D environment, which is really important, but also that's going to change through the seasons. And that might be the way that materials change in time, and planting would be the obvious one. But really what it's saying is when you walk out into your garden, you should know what the season is, and that's important. A lot of us work in offices that look the same every day. So when you come into your own space, you know what season you're in, and I think that's important, as those are natural cycles that we try and sort of encourage in garden design, but also throughout the years as well. So there's maybe sort of a seasonal yearly cycle that you're working to, but also the cycle of time sort of in a longer form. The feeling of the space is probably the most important element of a design, because everyone is so different, and it's what is the feeling you're trying to sort of tap into. So like you listen to music that makes you feel a certain way. You can consider the garden the same as that. It might be music has like a rhythm to it, and it's the same with the way that we use shapes, design, that sort of stuff. And you'll have associations with certain shapes, and it's really important that we understand how space makes you feel, but you'll have your own associations that make you feel a certain way, and that'll be something that we explore with each customer. Everyone's different. It might be there's memories that you have, and we'll try and sort of work with those with you in order to kind of encourage a certain feeling in your space, and that's really important because everyone's different and has different requirements in that area.